there's some specific ways that we need to do that. So I'm going to start with number one. Number one is vitamin D. A lot of y'all have kind of reached out to us and we've talked about that. More and more research has come out for the people who did poorly when they contracted COVID-19 and their vitamin D levels. So it was above 90% of the people who contracted COVID-19 and passed away were vitamin D deficient. And only 4% of the people who passed away had sufficient levels of vitamin D. So look, is it everything? Absolutely not. But that is a glaring stat that we all need to make sure that we're taking our vitamin D levels. How much? That depends on where you're starting from. And so I'm doing about 2 drops. So about 4,000 IUs in the morning. And then somewhere throughout the day, I'm doing another drop. We're doing liquid vitamin D. So it's already kind of ready to go. Drop it in like my last couple sips of water and I'll knock that down. So in total, I'm taking about 6,000 IUs a day, but I am splitting it up. So I'm doing that, multiple times. So everyone, all of your friends, all of your family, they need to be taking the vitamin D levels. A lot of people in the beginning of this didn't realize that, a social distancing did not mean that we needed to stay in our house and not be getting out. So the other thing I'm going to say with that is be outside. The weather's been great. Get in the sun, spend those first, few minutes of the day in the sun. Get outside whenever the sun's up and you're actually getting some UV rays so you can activate vitamin D. And you got to do that without suntan lotion. So that's a good point that a lot of people will miss is that, your first 15 minutes out in the sun, do that without any sunblock on because we need that vitamin D to kick on. That's what I would start with. I would center that as part of your kind of, new immune protocol. Second one is going to be vitamin C. And most of us have seen, oh, hey, we need to take vitamin C. I think the thing that a lot of people are missing is that they're not taking it correctly. So what vitamin C does is it gets into your body, it gets into your bloodstream, and then it spikes up. And then your body almost uses all of that vitamin C and those levels go down again. So what we need to do with vitamin C is we actually need to repeatedly take that throughout the day. There's been studies that were done on people taking, I think, 2,000 milligrams 4 times a day. And what they found was that their vitamin C levels in their serum, in their blood, stayed up at a protective level all day long. So that's a really, really good way to do this. I prefer taking a vitamin C, either a pill form or a powder form. I know a lot of people are doing emergency and they got a bunch of flack recently for kind of some of the stuff that they were doing in there, but whichever way you're doing it, we need to do that repeatedly. So what I would shoot for is depending on your risk level. If you're at high risk, I would be taking probably 3,000 milligrams 3 times a day. If you're at low risk and you kind of forget to do it, take, 1 to 2,000 milligrams. Same thing, take it 2 or 3 times a day, and you're going to keep those serum levels high so that you can kind of stay in that protective range. The third one that I'm going to tell you that I would definitely be taking is glutathione. That one, the one that we recommend is the OGF by Robert Keller. Robert Keller was an amazing scientist, an amazing physician. He dove in and discovered that glutathione was one of the things that a lot of people who had autoimmune issues, HIV, cancer, that was one of the things that they were basically flatlined on. They had almost none. And so he started studying that, and a lot of the early data on how important glutathione is to our health came from him. So that's your master antioxidant. That helps every cell in your body, immune or otherwise, function better. So I would be taking that one. I split that up and take half a dose in the morning, a full dose. So I take 3 pills in the morning, 3 at night. And we're doing that so that we can get better sleep. We've tracked this. If you take those at night and it helps your body kind of fight off that oxidative stress whenever you get into that deep kind of resting state, you get better, deep restorative sleep. So that's a nice little tip. One thing I want to mention about this is that because this is an antioxidant, it's going to be a very, very strong detoxifier. So you're going to detoxify a lot whenever you start taking this. If you've never taken anything like this before, I would start with about half of that. So your first week or two, take just like 2 pills in the morning and then 1 at night. We have seen it where, look, as you start taking this and you start going through those detox, people will get little detox symptoms. Normal detox symptoms are a little bit of kind of achiness, headaches sometimes. That's all normal. Stay the course. And then after about 2 weeks of that, once those symptoms subside, then jump up to taking the 3 supplements twice a day, the 3 pills twice a day. But that's a really good point. The next one is going to be zinc. A lot of people know the protective kind of mechanisms around zinc and kind of how that helps us to keep our immune system strong. About 50 milligrams of taking zinc is a very good one. Zinc is something you want to take either about 2 hours after a meal or about an hour before a meal. A nice thing, look, for zinc too, I tell people, start looking for those high foods that contain a lot of zinc. So look, oysters is a good one. That I'm privy to that one. I love that. So get you some extra charbroiled oysters and go about your business. But zinc is definitely on that list. As you start getting out and about, and we're doing that, we want to make sure that we're taking some zinc in there to kind of keep you protected. Astragalus was one that is, I think, not on people's radar before all of this got started. And you really want that as part of your repertoire right now. Astragalus is going to help a lot with the antiviral properties. So any of the good astragalus ones, this is the one that we've been taking. This is the one that we've been recommending. I like it. It's a good quality supplement. They've got some backed studies saying, what's in it is actually in it. So that's always what I look for. And then the last one is allicin, which is the garlic extract that has a lot of those antiviral properties. So very, very protective. Allicin is what's activated. If you crush garlic and you leave it in contact with air, allicin is what gets activated in that. So that's another thing that you can actually start to do is, like, when you're cooking with garlic, use real whole clove garlic and then, do the smash there and leave it for a little while. That'll activate a lot of those beneficial properties. So my little bonus to this is, like, look, start adding in these little extra immune boosting drinks. So, I would be looking at stuff like kombucha. Everybody loves, look, it's tea time. So I've got some chaga in this. Add some chaga tea in, add like some turmeric or curcumin teas. That's a really good way to get those things in. Matcha tea is a finely ground tea where you're actually drinking the leaves. All of those things, while they're not going to be kind of protective in terms of what they're doing to kind of fight off viral properties, they do boost your immune system tremendously. So those are other things that can really help. I know, Jody, last week you asked about taking Mariva, which is, for those of you that don't know, Mariva is a turmeric curcumin stack that's got like some black pepper extract that helps you absorb it. All of those things that keep inflammation down and that keep your immune system from having to fight off different things is going to help us during this time. And so, with this kind of, new normal and people getting out and about, that routine that we just went through, you're probably going to be spending $80 to $100 a month on that stuff. Which is, look, I know that's not cheap, especially with everything that's going on right now, but you don't get another chance at this stuff. We were talking about vitamin D with one of my patients, and, they are doing studies of once someone contracts COVID-19, if they do them on high dose vitamin D and vitamin C, they're having to do that intravenously. They have to get it to them like right away. So, in those situations, is it too late? And we're trying to find that out. We don't know that yet, but we do know that if their levels were much higher to start with, that they had a whole lot better response when they got it, because and this might go into other areas. It's something that we're looking at. Whenever you get a virus and that causes this cytokine response, which is your body's inflammatory response, one of the things they're seeing with COVID-19 is that it causes this cytokine storm, like they're calling it. It's this massive inflammatory storm that your body can't catch up. And so your body's trying to fight off inflammation, and it's taking so much of the immune system to do that, that it just can't quite get there. And, we spiral, our immune system gets depleted. And that's whenever we're seeing people, eventually succumb to this. And so my question with that is, like, does that go in other areas? If your vitamin D levels are low and you have a disc injury or a back injury, and that causes that inflammatory response, does that also spiral into, this cytokine, this massive inflammatory response? And if your vitamin D levels are low, does that make it difficult for your body to catch up and actually heal something like a disc or a shoulder injury or, a muscle tear, whatever it might be? So those are things that I'm looking at. I would love to know that and kind of see that research being done. So how can you go through a normal day and take these things? And what activities and things should we have in there that will kind of give you this perfect immune system? And so if y'all are interested in getting that one day sheet, send the text to our number and do a #immune, and we'll send you the link to download that exact copy. We're taking control of our health, and that we're actually feeling like, hey, I've got some control and I'm going to do these things, so I have the power of what my immune system is doing. I got a bunch of questions on what do I need to keep doing and what do I do after, at what point do I make the decision to start pulling back on this stuff? And so I think, the way that we want to structure our long-term health is for two things. Can we keep our system strong, our immune system strong? Can we keep inflammation down? Because most of the causes of aging, most of the disease states come from inflammation. And then number three, it would be, can we slow kind of cell degradation down? Can we slow the aging process down? And so if we build our long-term, kind of wellness routine around those three tenets, you're going to get a lot of the things you need, even if you're cycling on and off of them. So that's one of the things that I do a lot is I'll have periods where I'm taking different forms of supplements for different areas of health. The long-term thing, the number one thing I'll tell you is start getting tested. Was that yesterday? Yesterday, I went and did a blood draw to send off my SpectraCell test to see, hey, what is in you? What vitamins, what minerals, what metals, what hormones, what are those levels right now? So as we try and build out a long-term program for you to stay healthy, we have to know where you're starting from. And I know very few people that are actually going and getting tested to find out what are their blood levels. So that's number one. I would say start doing that, because then you can start seeing, oh, I need to add more vitamin D, or, hey, I'm good on vitamin D. I can actually, put that money and resources towards some of these other supplements. So with that said, about 50% of the US population are deficient in vitamin D. Vitamin D it acts as a hormone once it gets into our body. It's really, really important to all function. So I would start with that. The second one, long-term, is glutathione. For all of the antioxidant properties, for all of the cell stress that we kind of have in today's environment, glutathione's a necessity. We start to lose it when we turn 20. The results from like 2000, or that might have even been in the 90s, was that by the time you turn 20, you start to lose 10% of your levels a year. That's because of environmental stresses and cell stress. Now, in today's environment, I would imagine it's probably higher than that. So glutathione needs to be part of it. Fish oil is something that y'all should be taking. Krill oil is a great way to kind of get all of the positives of fish oil and kind of prevent a few of the negatives. So krill oil is a nice one to add in there to your long-term one. For inflammation, turmeric and curcumins, the teas, I like to get that one in tea, to be completely honest with you. I'm not taking any more like a Meriva or curcumin supplement regularly, but I do drink it in a nightly tea, probably 3 to 4 days a week. So, and then the last one that's going to help a lot with kind of that third phase of stopping cell degradation is NAD. So NAD, like y'all have heard me talk about this, I have a lot of interest in how do we boost NAD in our body, because when we see kind of anti-aging and a lot of the research that's coming out on anti-aging, a lot of that that we can do naturally and easily is on studying, taking in NAD. And there's a couple different ways to do that. They're all studying some of that stuff right now. There's two forms. You can take nicotinamide riboside, or you can take another one, NMN, and both of those will basically get into your body, and your body uses the components to make NAD. Either way, we need to get those levels up. And right now, with what we have, look, you know, a year or two, there may be a better way to do that. But right now, this is what we can do to help that. And basically what that does is protects your cells when they replicate. They're not creating, you know, faulty replications, that repeated copies. And that keeps you young, basically. When your cells replicate, they start to mess up. They don't replicate as well as we get older. And that's what we call aging. If we can make a better copy, we're going to navigate this aging process much easier. And then look, you know, when we're talking long term, I'm going to just throw this in there. If you're testing, you're taking vitamin D, glutathione, fish oil, turmeric, and NAD, you're doing a lot good. If we should take a multivitamin, I answer that based on your test. So if you haven't gotten a test to actually find out what your vitamin levels are, I would start with that, because, you know, potentially if your vitamin levels are high across the board, or, you know, some of them are good and you've got one or two that are your low ones, I personally would rather you pay attention to those two that are low and take those specifically. Everybody's got a lot of multivitamins have come down quite a bit. And so I do see the value in taking a multivitamin. At least you know that you're getting something in. But I think if we're actually trying to do the most effective way, that's what I would shoot for. We need to add in those activities. So there's something called hormesis. That is basically you stressing your system to make it stronger. This is exercise. This is cold therapy, cold showers, cryotherapy, ice baths. This is heat shock, so saunas, hot baths. Fasting is another form of hormesis. So you're stressing your system, stressing your immune system, so that it comes back even stronger. And so that's a really good thing to add in, especially right now. You know, I would be doing that a little bit. We don't want to do that a lot right now while we are getting out, but a little bit is still very, very good. You got to keep that muscle working. And so sleep, extremely important right now. Make sure you're getting good sleep. You know, if you can get an extra hour, you know, I would really pay attention to sleep. Meditation has been shown in people who were stressed and anxious. When they started meditating every day, their immune system got stronger. Look, with everything going on right now, in whether that be economically, whether that be, you know, personally, whether that be stress because of family members, we know that that is a part of our culture right now. And so we've got to start doing some stress mitigation stuff. Exercise is a very, very important part of that, but spending some time in like a meditative state or a mindfulness state, look, sit down in a dark room without a lot of noises and breathe. You know, that's all it needs to be. And if you're doing that from a long-term perspective, you are on the right track. Absolutely. You're going to see that. One, I think it just makes you feel better, because you're like, I'm doing my part. I'm not just putting my hands up and saying, you know, let fate take it where it will. You've got to take that step and take some control over